Good morning to you all, and welcome in this great gallery of this great museum. We've had a long tradition of wonderful exhibitions here in Toledo, and this morning we announce another one, a great exhibition of the work of one of the most important French artists, Edouard Manet, known sometimes as the father of Impressionism, sometimes as the painter of modern life. An artist born in the same decade that brought us photography, the 1830s. An artist who straddled, therefore, realism and the birth of Impressionism. An artist who teaches us much about today, because the last 2 decades has seen us negotiate once again our face on the internet, in social media, the desire to consistently portray ourselves to the world. And this is Manet's world. So this fall, in fact, from October 7, 2012 to New Year's Day of 2013, we will have a wonderful exhibition here, Manet Portraying Life. The first exhibition that has been held of the portraits of the great portrait painter, Edouard Manet. Manet is a fascinating person. He was born to a well-to-do family. His father was a judge. His mother was the daughter of a diplomat. Actually, she was goddaughter of the Swedish crown prince. And his father had ideas for him. He thought that he should go into the law. But Manet really wanted to be a painter. And when he was sent to school, he took up drawing classes. And there he met, in 1845, at the age of 13, this gentleman, Antonin Proust. And they became lifelong friends, and Proust became the Minister for Culture, the Minister of Fine Arts in France, which is probably helpful to Manet, because Manet, though he was a fairly sober gent, he wanted so much to be part of the salon. He was a real controversialist, as we know from works that are not in this show, because they're not portraits as such. Works like Olympia, the great nude who was naked. And so, at Manet's father's suggestion, he said, well, why don't you go on a training vessel to Rio de Janeiro at the age of 16? Well, fortunately, Manet failed to get into the Navy 3 times, and instead his father allowed him to become an artist. The great artist that he is held in such high esteem in his native country, France. So this fall, we will have the opportunity to have a show that will attract thousands of visitors to this wonderful museum. And when Larry Nichols, aside from informing me that he'd spotted a painting that he wanted to buy, this France Hals here, told me that he'd been working on an idea with the Royal Academy in London, where Toledo would be the exclusive venue in America, with the Royal Academy the exclusive venue in Europe for showing Manet's portraits. Obviously, I wanted to know what was going to be in the show. And Larry will tell you a little bit more about that soon. But it was truly impressive as a display of works of art by this great artist. And so we got working to build on the years that had gone into research for the show. And here we are today making this announcement. And the key part of the announcement later is the support that we've received from our community to make this possible for the many people who will come to it. This fall is going to be about portraiture. In Gallery 1 down the way, we will have hundreds of portrait photographs of members of our community. In Gallery 18, we will have an exhibition of one of the premier portraitists in America, but who lives here, Leslie Adams, who won that right to have an exhibition when she won a major award in the Toledo Area Artists Exhibition last year. And, of course, in addition, trying to make it contemporary to this past century, as well as the Manet show, we're also having a show called Made in Hollywood, which is a show of studio photography from the great era of studio photography between 1920 and 1960. This was when the stars and access to them was controlled, just as it was controlled in the studio in Manet's time. And these portraits of the film stars of the golden era of Hollywood will accompany Manet too. And so we'll be en fête, as the French would say, with portraits. And it'll be a huge season, and we're looking forward to filling our hotels and filling our restaurants and making everybody happy in the region. And I see what's happening here as a resurgence. Here 18 months myself, the attitude and the enthusiasm, the determination of people of this region to help this region out of what has been an international economic crisis is really awe-inspiring. And the Toledo Museum of Art wants to be a key part of that. So I'd like to welcome to talk with you someone who knows a lot more about Manet than I do, and in fact has written about Manet's tremendous interest in Franz Hals for the catalogue, the major publication that will accompany this exhibition. Larry Nichols will tell you more about this great painter who opened his studio in Paris in 1856 at the age of 24. Larry Nichols.
As the organizing curator in Toledo for Manet, Portraying Life, I not long ago received an inquiry from the museum's communication department. Larry, was Manet the father of Impressionism or the father of modern art? Echoing the conundrum Brian just spoke and referenced. I responded a fair question, but I also replied, if ambiguously, both. Manet, always the independent mind, avoided showing his paintings with the slightly younger Monet, Renoir, and others in their unsanctioned exhibits in Paris in the 1870s. But he nonetheless exerted an enormous artistic force on each and every one of them. So too Cézanne, two wonderful examples by him you'll see out in our 19th century galleries. So too Cézanne very much recognized the importance of Manet for his own development, just as Picasso acknowledged the significance of Cézanne for him. So much, therefore, began and begins with Edward Manet, who will be served up in spades this autumn here at the Toledo Museum of Art. That I am supremely thrilled about our exhibition is an utter understatement. My reason for this strongly felt sentiment are twofold. Our initiative will be meaningful and significant for Manet scholarship, and the show will provide an extremely enjoyable and satisfying experience for our visiting audience, which will come from the Toledo area, the region, and nationally. You're looking at Manet's portrait of Antonin Proust, painted in 1880 and given to the museum by our founder, Edward Drummond Libby, at his death in 1925. This painting was the catalyst for this project. Already some 6 years ago, I put forth the idea that our institution, possessing as we do one of the highlights from the hand of this great artist, should mount a show focused on portraiture. Not long thereafter, on a visit of his to Toledo, the notion of bringing focus to Manet's portraiture was strongly endorsed by Henri Loiret, the director of the Louvre and a former director of the Musée d'Orsay, which has so many sterling examples by Manet, 3 of which are to be lent to Toledo. About 4 years ago, the museum set in motion the action of organizing this important initiative. Extensive research accompanied by site visits with my colleague from the Royal Academy of Art in London, Marianne Stevens, to most of the potential lenders were required to explain the show's concept. And I am elated to communicate that close to 40 superlative canvases from Budapest to Boston, from Tokyo to Hamburg, are headed Toledo way this autumn. Highlights of the loans to us include this wonderful railway scene from our own National Gallery of Art in Washington, this tremendous image of Monet and his family in his garden. Manet's literally visiting his acquaintance. Renoir wasn't far away and painted the same subject. There's the tremendous picture coming to us from the Musée d'Orsay in Paris of a portrait of Émile Zola. Everybody run and buy novels and start reading. And then a great picture from Providence, Rhode Island, of Berthe Morisot, one of the stunners of this exhibit. There are also paintings coming to us from Lisbon, Philadelphia, Madrid, Copenhagen, a recently acquired picture from the Getty Museum, Chicago, a good many private collectors also lending both from this country and Europe. Brian Kennedy, who has taken on this exhibition with incredible enthusiasm and unstinting support, Brian and I will be presenting this exhibition in our Canada Gallery in a series of groupings. The artist and his family, Manet's literary friends, the artists and actors, politicians and patrons, and the artist's model. We believe it will be a visually compelling experience for our visitors. Now, why can I say that statement and have you believe me? Well, prior to coming in here, I was musing and preparing away from the computer screen and the notes and just musing. And I found myself in front of Van Dyck's portrait of a man in a gallery nearby, 17th century Flemish work. And I found myself less looking at the painting, but reading the poem by Connor Wilkinson, a high school student at Central Catholic, whose poem begins, "Thou art a mystery of a man." Here's a high school kid, approximately the age of Manet when he's sent off by dad to think about entering the law. Forget about that art stuff, kid. Here's a high school kid living here now who's responding to Toledo Museum of Art's portraiture. An anonymous individual, and the child, the young man, the growing poet writes, as I said, "Thou art a mystery of a man." That excites me that an individual's visiting here and responding to art, our art collection, and portraiture at that, albeit an unidentified individual. We know who every individual is in the Manet show we're having this autumn, and we will be telling the biography of these individuals, and there will be a tangible link from the imagery to our own lives. Manet once stated, "Museums have always driven me to despair. I'm deeply depressed when I go in and see how wretched the pictures look. There are visitors and guards all milling around. The portraits just don't come alive." End quote. I'm here to remark that museums are my passion. And if I disagree with the master on this point, I'm quick, however, to give Manet, who died 129 years ago this coming Monday, I'm quick to give Manet the last word. Everything that has a sense of humanity, a sense of modernity, is interesting. Everything that lacks this is worthless. Manet Portraying Life will be bursting with humanity as well as a sense of modernity. It will be of immeasurable value to our museum and our community. And for these reasons, I want to add my heartfelt thanks to the sponsors, shortly to be announced by Director Brian Kennedy. Bring on a season of portraiture at the Toledo Museum of Art. I return the podium to Brian.
Thank you, Larry, for all the work you've done and all the work you're about to do to make this exhibition a terrific success. I like to say that museums don't happen, they're caused. And this museum was caused by a vision of Mr. and Mrs. Libby, which today has been responded to extraordinarily, such that in our endowments, just over a quarter today is Libby funds. And the rest is all the people who have followed their vision to create this wonderful museum. So in a community, to take on an exhibition of this scale, bringing couriers with great art from all around the world, needs assistance. And we carefully thought about who might be interested in this show. Who would want to make that difference in this community just now, which would celebrate art of the highest quality and the very spirit that the Libbies promoted, which was to provide high-quality art, to have everybody understand the importance of design as we once again attempt to remake the city in a new century. This building, the one we're sitting in now, was opened 100 years ago in January 1912. So it is a new century. The two companies that we approached both said yes. And I'd like to take them in turn. First of all, we recognized that we had a major local and regional company that is involved so much in what happens here in the community and whose family have long been involved in this great institution. And that is the Block family and Block Communications. We're all aware of how intensely engaged Block Communications is with so much that happens in our lives here, and we're absolutely thrilled to acknowledge Block Communications, to warmly thank them and say how much we'll enjoy working together this fall. And could I invite you to welcome the chairman of the board of Block Communications, Alan Block.
Thank you for those kind words, Brian. Of course, Block Communications is delighted to support an international exhibition of this quality being organized by the Toledo Museum of Art. My father was fluent in French, and he would certainly have appreciated an exhibit being organized of a great French artist who was one of the most influential in the development of Impressionism and in modern art. I want to say that I'm somewhat sorry that the news of this exhibition being sponsored by us was inadvertently leaked by the Blade editor, but you know, that's one of those things that happens, and I can't worry about it. Some of those liberal editorials I'll worry about a little more. But we are delighted to be the sponsor of this. We're delighted to be assisted by BP on several occasions at international conferences. I've had the occasion to talk to the former CEO of BP, Lord John Brown, and I know that this is a great company, one of the greatest companies in the world. So, you know, the Block family has been involved in Toledo since 1926, or maybe even 1908, if the date my grandfather was first involved with the Toledo Blade as national ad rep is used. We've always supported this town in the highest way, and it is our goal to, you know, try to help Toledo be a world-class city. So I am delighted to represent Block Communications here today, and we are delighted to be the major sponsor of this exhibit that will also go to London and is a world-class exhibit. Thank you.
So Alan Block is giving you a bit of a hint there for the interest in French art that was shared in the family, but of course it's much more than his father, in that Susan Alan Block here spent considerable time in France. I'd guess to say her favorite city in the world is Paris. And so making connections is really important for museums. It's one of the things that we're for. And so it wasn't a big leap of imagination if you're in the art world to know that one of the major sponsors of portraiture is BP. And the BP National Portrait Awards have been of huge standing for a long time in London at the National Portrait Gallery. In fact, an artist from this area did very well a couple of years ago in that competition. And in approaching BP, we were really thinking about 1,500 people who work in its refining facility based in Oregon. And all those people who could get involved with the museum and help to build our region as a major corporation like BP seeks to build energy resources. So with these links, it was wonderful to be able to approach BP, to talk this through, to see what this would mean, and to invite Mary Caprella, Government and Public Affairs Manager for BP, to address you. Mary.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Brian, for your leadership and for your team's leadership here at the Museum of Art for bringing the Manet portraits exhibit to the Toledo area. And I'd like to thank Mr. Block, too, for your kind words about BP. BP is really thrilled to be part of this project and helping secure bringing this exhibit to the Toledo area. BP has a vested interest, as was mentioned, in the Toledo area. We have nearly 650, or actually over 650 BP employees that work at our refinery in Oregon, and an additional 600 plus contractors that work at our facility full time. So it is a pleasure for us to be involved. We actually have been in this community for almost 100 years as well. Our refinery has been in operation since 1919, so it's a privilege for us to be part of this community, and we take very responsibly or very seriously our responsibility not only to operate a world-class refinery, but also to be a good corporate citizen and give back to the communities where we operate. And we thought this was an excellent opportunity for BP to get involved in the arts, an excellent exhibit, the first of its kind, never been seen before, a very unique opportunity for us. And again, we'd like to thank Brian, Block Communications, for helping bring this exhibit to the Toledo area. We're very excited, BP is, to partner in this. And again, thank you. We look forward to this partnership.
Thank you, Mary, and I'd like to acknowledge Mark and Barbara Dangler of BP for really taking such an interest in this show and realizing the potential that it could have, just as Alan and Susan Block have. We're in for a big season. We've got a lot of work to do, and we have an exciting program for the next number of years. I think it's really important that this city continues to focus on what it can do, and that each major business does so. We're a special kind of business. We're an unusual kind of business. We're free. But there's no such thing as free, and you know that. Somebody's paying. And this community pays to make this museum happen through its support of it in the store, in membership, in sponsorship, in donations that continue to make the Toledo Museum what it is in the world today. So I'm thrilled again to have Block Communications and BP on board with this show. We are available for interviews for anybody who'd like to do them now, and we encourage you to talk this show up, encourage everybody. We are not a one-night stand. We're not easy. We give you 90 days to keep on coming, and so you can invite your friends to come to Toledo week after week, month after month for 3 months. And that's the difference that an art museum can make. It really is a serious business, and we aim to make a difference. Thank you all for being here this morning.